The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our third episode of Community Chat with Collin. Today is Wednesday, August 9th, and we have a good show prepared for you guys today. I am currently with City Council candidate Ian Tompkins. Welcome, Ian. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show, Collin.
Anytime. I want to get all the candidates on here and get all their viewpoints so we can have clarity and a great vision going forward for our upcoming election. Well, how about you just tell us about yourself a little bit, Ian?
So like where I'm from?
Yeah, where you're from. Just tell us about your background, where you went to school.
Okay. So I was born in Fall River, actually in Charlton. I spent my childhood on Madison Street in the Highlands. For elementary school, I went to Healy, which I think Healy's no longer.
I haven't heard about it. I don't think it's around anymore.
It's in the south end, off South Main Street, pretty close to the Rhode Island edge of Fall River. But that's where I went for elementary. I spent some time at the old Morton before they redid it, and then for high school, I went to Durfee, and I'm a graduate of 2000 in the class 2008.
Nice. My family went to Durfee.
All right. Excellent. So I've got a lot of ties to Fall River. Like I said, I've spent my entire childhood, and I grew up here. The only time I wasn't in Fall River, I went to college at URI to get a 6-year degree in pharmacy. And then I decided to come back here and not leave the city. I wanted to try to help bring it back to life.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're involved in the political process. It can be a war zone. And I haven't even ran yet. It can be a war zone, and I'm glad you're putting your efforts in making our city better. Tell us your insight on some of the issues. I do know you're on the left side of the political spectrum. Some people even called you a communist. Could you clarify yourself on those issues a little bit?
So that has been said. I believe that people should be able to collectively decide how societal resources are being used, and that it shouldn't be dominated by any, small group of people, especially, so things like, water, public infrastructure, and social infrastructure like schools and healthcare resources. I think that those should all be pooled resources that everybody has equal access to. So that's how I generally frame society. Specific to Fall River, I think that there are a lot of issues that are fairly specific to Fall River.
You would like me to name some issues, and you can.
Okay.
How would you help our city and work with the mayor on the pothole issue?
So
just to start off,
the pothole issue. So from what I understand, the mayor seems to be siding very, very much with the business community on the streetscapes issue.
Right.
Which I think in some ways is very important. It's really important to have a robust a robust business infrastructure to attract small businesses to the city so that we can generate revenue.
Okay.
But at the same time, a lot of people are viewing that as avoiding the general infrastructure problem of our roads not functioning at all. And so people feel that we're spending money on streetscapes when we really should be spending money just fixing the city. I think that it's necessary to do both of those things, as they're both investments in the city. One is an investment in the business community, and the other is an investment in general infrastructure. And I think we need both of those in order to get the city to be able to move forward.
Yeah, well, I agree. The way I look at it is we should be focusing on all of our streets more equally. We should not be focusing on one particular street to another particular street. Like, if we were to do a streetscapes project, I would prefer it more in an area where we can attract big businesses like the South End or the waterfront. But I supported the city council when they took out funds for the sidewalks and potholes, because we need to have a smooth, clean city. Because if we have potholes, we can get sued, which we're losing revenue. The city, people visiting the city may want to move to have a house here, or move their business here, or move an entire corporation. They want to see a city that's well clean and well kept. But here is an important issue I want to talk about. I should have said this one first, but what's your opinion on how we should solve the opioid epidemic?
Okay, so there's two things I want to touch on there. You brought up the waterfront and streetscape in the waterfront, and I think that's really important. We do need to interconnect our waterfront with the rest of the city, and I know that from being involved in some of the redevelopment authorities meetings, that they do want to redo that waterfront, and they want to bring down the highway to street level. And one of the things that I thought was important that they discussed, but they weren't necessarily going to do, is adding flyover paths to connect the city directly to the waterfront in more ways. That way it's easier to go directly from Heritage Park into the city.
Flyover passes, like overpasses almost?
So they're like walkways that go over the highway.
Oh, okay.
That way you can go directly from the city down to the waterfront, and that gives that greater connectedness to our biggest natural resource, which is Battleship Cove.
Okay.
And the waterfront there, which is a huge natural resource that we need to utilize more of.
Well, thank you.
One of the things I wanted to point out there is we have like the largest naval museum, I believe, in the United States, if not just in New England. And that's something we really need to exemplify or bolster, rather than just kind of say, oh yeah, we have the best naval museum anywhere, but whatever. So I find it important to bring out the history and to bring out the arts in Fall River. Now, another thing you mentioned was the opioid epidemic. That's something I definitely want to try to address. I know that it's a major problem both in America and especially here in Fall River. I think that we should be working with rehab facilities to try to bring that in. I know that Stepping Stone just opened the First Step In, which is a good amount, great progress, that we're getting some nonprofit attention there. And I know that Star is trying to open a larger facility, and I think that we need to support them, but we also need to get them in the right parts of the city. I know that there may be some parts of the city where we shouldn't have those facilities, but we should definitely try to help find them an ideal location, probably maybe in the medical portion of the city, where they can have those.
I agree with a lot you just said, and I support Richard Cabaceres' idea on this. We should focus more on counseling and not more on methadone. Like Star, I support what Star does with counseling and helping others, but when it comes to methadone and the beds, I just think we don't need all that negative attention in our city. And they're moving right now. They want to open up a new facility on Weaver Street. That's next to a school, a church, a daycare center. Where else? A high-rise. And I don't think that's necessary for our city. I don't think that paints a good brush for our city. And we should just focus more on counseling, I think, to focus on the issue. It's like we need a two-pronged approach. We need to work on counseling and helping people, tell them that there's so much more to life than these drugs, and we want to help you. We want to make sure you stay away from that bad things. And then there's this other approach where we need more police. We need park police because that's where most of the drugs come from, the parks. Not all of it. There's drugs that come from everywhere, but my insight is they mostly come from the parks. We need park police, and we need to monitor our city better. And yeah, that's my intake. What do you think about that?
So yeah, there's two things I want to touch on. From my background in pharmacy, I know that one of the biggest predictors of success in getting away from opioids is being part of a community group and getting away from your social group that's more involved in drugs. So I have personal family that got away from drugs by getting involved in Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, and having that social group that's very pro getting away from drugs is a critical aspect to getting away. It's one of the biggest predictors of success. So I want to try to promote and build up those types of groups, because that's, like I said, one of the biggest parts. I think that it's still important to have the methadone clinics and the Suboxone clinics, because that's another aspect. It's
no, I know. Let me rephrase. I do agree we should have methadone clinics. I don't think we should prioritize methadone clinics. I want to fix my stance on that.
I can agree with that stance. And in regards to policing, my strategy on policing is I like to promote as much preventative policing as possible, so a lot of community policing. The other day I went to the police in Public Palooza, and it was great to see the police out there engaging the community and making it known that they are a trustable face and that people in our community can go to them and trust them with their problems. And that's a big part of getting the community to be able to come forth with drug issues. If they see someone dealing, they can say, oh, I can approach the police and they'll be able to help with this situation. So I feel we need to get the police out there so that they're well known in the community. That way they can say, oh, I'll call Officer Bob or Officer whoever, because they know who the officer is, they know who they're going to call and let them know. It's more of a personal connection.
Yeah, we had the walking beat a few years ago until. Do you know the walking beat still exists? No.
I'm not aware of the walking beat.
Let me explain what the walking beat is. The walking beat is police officers basically patrolling the city and engaging with the citizens and just monitoring crime. And I think we should reintroduce the walking beat. But yeah, one more question. Another question I want to ask you about your campaign. Who runs your campaign? Who is your campaign family? Like, who's your campaign manager to start off with?
So currently, I'm new to campaigning. I don't have a campaign manager. I'm not sure how to run a campaign. I was thinking about just running a campaign with no money involved and seeing if that works. But I've been getting a lot of advice that's a bad idea, and that I probably should take in some form of money and should form some kind of campaign structure in order to be able to win and get my message out to the people, because you can't win if you don't get your message out. And I think that's
right.
Getting out my message on how my vision of what the city should be like and how the city should function. I think that's important, and getting other people involved is important.
Right. I never ran a campaign of my own as of yet until I will in the future in 2019. But I've been around many campaigns. And one thing I've noticed for a successful campaign, you need to be out there with the people. You need to go knocking door to door, talking to them, and explaining your ideas and how you're going to help them. And if you're sincere enough and they like you, that's a vote. And yeah, that's just some advice for you. Just go out there, door to door. But yeah, what makes you more qualified than some of the city councilors as of now to hold the position?
Well, I would say some of my best personal qualifications are that I've been a longtime Fall River resident. I've seen multiple parts of the city. I'm currently actually a landlord in Fall River, so I own
You're
a
a
property.
landlord?
I am.
Oh wow.
My fiance and I own a 3-family on Cambridge Street, and so we've been involved in so I've gone through the school systems of Fall River. I have a lot of friends in Fall River, so I've gotten a lot of different opinions. And I've gotten a pretty decent college education, and I'm also very engaged in the city itself, and I'm trying to become more engaged with the community and get their opinions on how the city should function. And that's why I feel like I'm qualified to represent the city of Fall River, or the citizens of the city of Fall River.
Well, that's good. But one thing that people might say to you, not me in particular, but other people might ask you or question is, a few years ago we had a city councilor who was around your age, young, wanted to help the people, and that city councilor got got in. He was 10th place, but someone dropped out, and well, they became the city administrator, and that particular person became a city councilor. And they weasel their way up to the office of the mayor. And some people might ask, some people lost their trust in the youth, I believe, because of what this particular person who's now currently our mayor has done. A lot of mistrust going around. And how would you be more trustworthy? Why should we trust you not to go down a negative path or a dark path and just not be open or transparent?
Well, I guess
Is my question clear, or do you want me to rephrase it?
I think that's a pretty clear question.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things I'm running on my campaign is that I'd like to bring out transparency in not only municipal elections but in all elections. I'd like public offices to be much more transparent and much more visible to the people in as many ways as legally possible. I also don't like corruption, and I would be totally willing to take like a pledge not to hire any family members or friends, and to strictly seek people to offices based on their qualifications.
You would take a pledge? Would you ever support a blind hiring process? Do you know what that is?
I do. I could understand what a blind hiring process would be.
It's when you hire someone, you take out their name, and you only have their resume and their qualifications. You just take out their name. Would you support that?
In some ways, I think that would be something I could support.
If you have any objections, it's okay.
I'd have to get some data to see how cities have functioned after implementing a process like that, and see if it really does improve outcomes for cities.
Okay.
If that exists. Otherwise, that might be a process I'd strongly consider looking into.
I know it does exist. Someone you would want to talk to is current City Councilor Richard Capiceris. He has a lot of information on that. But what's your opinion on the charter, the city's charter as of now?
The current city charter is,
I'm sorry. About the new proposed charter that was just proposed?
So the proposed charter, there are a lot of things I like about the proposed charter, and there are a couple things I don't like about the proposed charter. I still need to look into it to finalize my decision, but I believe I'm in support of the charter, if for no other reason than the fact that it brings up a charter review in 5 years and in 10 years that'll let us make additional adjustments to the charter.
Right, and there's always steps you could take yourself as a city councilor or even a private citizen. There's the special acts. If you're a city councilor and there's something you do not like about the charter, you can go through a special act process to have it go up to the state. Then the state could approve something new. So that's a good thing about being a city councilor. That's one of the perks. And yeah, more questions. What should I ask? What's your opinion on the miscommunication between the city administration and the city council? How would you work with whoever's on the 6th floor and not either be a crony of the mayor or you won't be an obstructionist? Because there seems to be two parties in the city council right now. Either you're a crony of the mayor or you're an obstructionist. People like this. I don't believe that, but that's what people are putting others out to be. How would you be someone who would stick to your values and the values you believe is best, but also work with the city administration?
Well, I think an important thing is that the city does need to continue to function, no matter who is in the office. I mean, the people elected the mayor, so they do need to work to some degree with the mayor. The people put them there, so that's the person that the people want to represent them at that level. In working with the mayor, are you saying how would I deal with the mayor's lack of quality communication to the council as of late?
Well, we don't know who the mayor will be for the next election. So how would you assure people that you would work with whoever's in office?
So in regards to working with whoever's in office, I absolutely would be willing to work with whoever's in office. Again, the people have elected that person. And beyond that, I strongly believe that there's a need to work together in all forms of government and all forms of society. Societies are founded based on a mutual cooperation between people and functional units. And so it's definitely going to be important to keep the society functioning and to keep our city functioning to work with whoever's in the mayoral position. I mean, there may be things I disagree with that the mayor might propose, whichever mayor gets in. But my goal is to represent the city as, the people that elected me, and to try to at least modulate or change the way that what the city is trying to do in a way that I believe best affects the city, but not to obstruct what the city is trying to do.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I will admit, you are someone who seems like you're in the middle ground. You might support a candidate, but you're not really all about one particular candidate, and I really respect that about you. There's candidates who are running right now, like Michelle Dion and Dave DePere, who receive funds from the mayor and are campaigning for the mayor, and the mayor's campaigning for them, and we have a big danger in our city if Mayor J.C. Correa is reelected, that he might have a new council full of cronies. And that is something our city does not need. And yeah, but I believe you're someone who's in the middle of the ground, who wouldn't be an obstructionist and who would not be a crony for the mayor, and I respect that. And we don't have that much time left, so we're going to cover a few more topics. What is your opinion on abolishing the office of the mayor? Some people have considered appointing a city manager. That would work. There would just be a city council election, and either the highest one or the city council would appoint a city manager to run the city. And as you're running for a city council, would you ever consider that?
That is something that I would consider at some point in the future. I think our current electoral system doesn't support that concept, though. Currently, the mayor is elected on a majority vote, well, a plurality vote, but it ends up being a majority vote. One of the things that I do in my spare time is I work with Voter Choice Massachusetts, and we are trying to promote ranked choice voting. And
can you explain what ranked choice voting is?
Sure. So ranked choice voting is just a change to the way that we vote in society. Okay. So instead of just picking one candidate from a slew of candidates, you actually rank all of the candidates in the order of your preference. So you'd rank your favorite person a 1, you'd rank your second favorite person a 2, and your third favorite person a 3, and so on until you've ranked all the candidates.
Do you have to pick all 4? Do you have to rank them all, or can you just pick your best and second best?
You can rank as many as you feel are worth putting a number on.
Okay.
So what that does on a municipal level is it changes the way that representation is elected to be a proportionate representation, and it greater represents the diversity of the city. So much more of a much greater percentage of the city would be represented on a council. If we had a council that was elected in such a way, okay, I would feel that they would be much more beholden to the city in general, and they would have a much greater capacity to elect the city, or to choose a city manager that represents the entire city.
Right. My opinion on that is I think the city council should go by wards. So each neighborhood, it'll go by like neighborhoods basically, like little sections of the city, and those sections of the city can pick their candidate. And I think we should go by ward and by at large. I think we should have 3 or 4 at large, and the rest by neighborhood. So each neighborhood is represented equally. And for voting, I believe we should have a guerrilla primary, which you have all candidates on a primary. This is just for the mayor. And if someone reaches 50%, over 50%, they become the mayor. And if they do not reach 50%, the top 2 candidates go to an election. It's similar to what we have now, except if a candidate reaches over 50%, they become the mayor. That is just my opinion. I agree with, I have to look more into ranked choice voting before I support it or not. Is there any ballot initiatives right now trying to change?
So we're trying to go for the ballot in 2020, so we're currently working on educating people as to what ranked choice voting is.
Okay.
And specifically on the municipal level, if you're going to look into it, it would be single transferable vote is the system of how you would elect. And in my opinion, electing a pool of candidates is superior to electing individual candidates by ward, because ultimately with individual candidates, you're still only utilizing the information from about 50% of the voters. But if you elect in a large pool citywide, if multiple candidates are elected at large, you represent around 90% of the vote instead of around 50% of the vote.
Okay. Well, we don't have that much time left. I'm going to ask you one last question.
Go ahead.
What is your opinion on the current mayor right now? If you don't have to bet. I'm not asking you this. What's your opinion on the administration right now?
I feel that the current administration is trying to do the best that it can. So I'm not going to say anything negative about the administration.
No, I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking.
I do believe that some of the decisions that the administration is making are short-sighted, and that they could use some more rigorous vetting in their decision-making, and that they should consult with the council better on making these decisions, and that would probably result in them getting more support and less pushback from the council.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on my show today. For the next episode, I will have a guest, and we will talk about the ongoing Hootgate investigation into Jazio Correa's Snow Owl business. And thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you again, Mr. Tompkins, and have a great day, everyone.